for it today. For every budding student eager to prepare themselves for tomorrow, we present to you DAKSH 2022. Members of the audience, a very good morning to one and all present here. Christ University is proud to welcome you all to this edition of DAKSH, the annual flagship event of the university. I am Darshni AK and I'll be your MC for today. DAKSH, the annual education and career guidance fair hosted by the Student Council of Christ deemed to be university, is a one-stop destination for all things education. At DAKSH, you get to witness exclusive opportunities, imperative student guidance, acquire varied knowledge, and make informed choices regarding your education and your careers. Without any further ado, we present to you today's session, Go Rule the World. We are humbled and beyond honored to have amidst us Mr. Ashok Mario Pereira, our esteemed speaker for today. Mr. Ashok is an accomplished strategic leader with an impeccable track record of delivering business risk and technology consulting solutions, and he services across sectors and regions to clients on a global platform. Having received his master's in industrial engineering from Iowa State University, Mr. Ashok has gone on to represent well-established organizations such as Oracle, IBM Alliance, P&W, and is currently working with EY as the consulting head for enterprise applications. He has also played a focal role in the expansion of EY's cybersecurity operations with the establishment of a cybersecurity center in Manila, Philippines. It is an undeniable fact that this wonderful person has crafted the art of blending prowess and power into potential projects. Sir, it is an absolute privilege to have you here at DAKSH, and we kindly request you to take the dais.
So good morning, folks. That actually sounded like an eulogy. I know what to expect when I pass away at some point. But thank you, and it's an honor and privilege to be with all of you today. This all started on a lazy Saturday morning in Lynette's place on Grant Road, which was Grant Road. Now we call it Vittal Malya Road. We had a very, what I would say, intellectual, passionate conversation about kids graduating from college. And I had some thoughts, and I shared that with her, and her question to me was, would you come and do it at Christ? And I equivocally said yes. And there are plenty of reasons, and I'll talk about that as I go along, as to why I wanted to do it. But let me start by just sharing a personal story. And this is 1984, much before you were born, of course. By the way, I'll have a lot of sarcasm and humor in my conversation. You don't have to laugh, okay? I'm just telling you this. 1984, my family had bought a Maruti Gypsy, a Jeep. I don't know if you know what a Gypsy is, but a Gypsy. And we were driving, I had a couple of friends, and we were driving down this road, the Hosur Road section. And bang opposite the gates, I got rear rammed by a scooter, and the rear lights fell off. And I looked up, and all I could see was Christ College. It was Christ College then. We used to call it as Christ College. And bang opposite were all open fields. There was nothing on the other side. And now as I come along and I remember the past, this is 1984, I remember that there was nothing there. And by the way, on this road, there was only Christ College and nothing else on this road. On Bannerghatta Road, there was nothing else except that drive-in theater, which is now something else, Accenture or whatever, and what we call the Mango Mandi. And after that, there were only trees all the way to Bannerghatta Park. So we've come a long way then. Lynette asked me, have I ever been to Christ? I've never been to Christ. This is my first time, despite living in Bangalore since 1982. So let me start. I'll start a little bit with my personal story, a little bit of professional, and then I will open it up to questions. I hope this is going to be interactive, so we'll have some questions from the audience. So personal, I grew up in Bangalore a long time back, did my schooling in Bangalore, did my engineering at BMS College of Engineering here in Bangalore, moved to the US to do my master's, as the lady just said, at Iowa State, came back to Bangalore, joined a company called Digital Equipment Corporation, which in those days was into mini computers. That company was subsequently bought by Compaq, which was subsequently bought by HP. With Digital, I moved to the US, to Boston in 1993, joined another company called Oracle Corporation. I know she talked about IBM and PNU and everything else, but that's something else. Joined a company called Oracle Corporation in 1997 in Boston, worked there for about 8-9 years, and moved back to Bangalore in 2005 with my family and my 2 kids, with Oracle again. I joined EY about 4.5 years ago, and I will tell you a little bit about that story as well. The interesting part, as I watch this crowd, as I look over you, is my daughter, when she came here, was 4.5 years old. She graduates in May from Claremont College in Los Angeles, and I'm sure many of you all are also graduating in the next couple of months. I don't think she would want me to speak to her compatriots. My son started his freshman year at Babson College in Boston this last August, and he'll graduate in 3 years from now. Now, talking about work and college, I will talk a little bit about what I do, and then I will talk about what I would call what they don't teach you at Harvard. They probably may not be teaching you here, they probably, hopefully, are teaching you here at Christ, but what they don't teach you at Harvard. What I do, I run something called, as we grow older and as we get into what we call partner relationships, we do multiple roles. So one of my first role that I was hired into was to run what is called enterprise applications, technology, which is basically everything other than SAP and Microsoft. So technologies that focus on the back-end ERP, finance, supply chain, transportation, logistics, etc. I was subsequently tapped to run Manila for all of consulting, both business and technology. I was subsequently tapped to run all of China, so Dalian, I run Dalian in China. I was subsequently tapped to run what we call the IBM Alliance. I was subsequently tapped to run what we call the power and utility sector, PNU. So we have many sectors. Power and utilities is one of the sectors. And in the recent couple of months, I've been tapped to run what we call sales and enablement for all of EY Global Delivery Services worldwide, which is why I'm losing my hair very quickly. When you wear many hats, these things happen. I don't think people are getting my jokes, I'm sorry. Sorry. My apologies if I if I don't get it. But that's what I do. And the reason I do these things is because, and these are some life lessons, as you go through your career, as you make the leap forward into your into your first job in the corporate or any other field, take on the responsibilities that excite you. You will be hired into a role, good, but you should also look into areas that you would put your hand up and say, I want to do that. I want to do that. And when corporates see that you have an aptitude and attitude to do things that are outside your comfort zone, you are immediately recognized. Let me give you some life. So I talked about the fact that I want to share some life stories. I talked about attitude, I talked about aptitude. Engage. Engage in any conversation with anyone. Hierarchy is passé. Hierarchy is done. I have youngsters coming and speaking to me. Every interaction I have with the youngsters, the freshers, by the way, from colleges like Christ, is a learning experience for me. Every interaction that you have should be a learning experience for you. Let me give you an example. I was I came in through which door? That door, right? I came in through that door. So we were upstairs, and I spent some time walking around the corridor. For me, it's a learning experience. I'm learning what Christ College is all about. It'll be something that'll be ingrained in my head, and I will have a conversation with someone at some point. It is a means of networking. It's a means of relationships that you build. Communication. Extremely important. Be articulate. Don't hesitate to have an opinion. Do not hesitate to have an opinion. What we fail to realize as we corporates grow more experienced, mature, I guess, is the fact that young blood and the millennials have more to offer out of the box. You know that cliche term, out of the box thinking? You all have it in spades. We know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. When you all come in with fresh blood into an organization, share your thoughts, share your beliefs. They will be, I know the immediate realization is that I'm a youngster, I'm a fresher, I should not speak. Not right. Speak up. Because you will see, let's assume there's a problem. Let's assume there is let's talk about something. You remember the ship that was wrecked in the Suez Canal? Do you remember that happened 4 months, 5 months ago? Do you know that one incident messed up the whole supply chain logistics for so many countries, especially China, going to the US? The base level foundation that you all get, when we were trying to figure out how do we take that one problem, when I say we, the organization, take that one problem and see how we could use it to hook our customers into transforming their supply chain systems. Some of the most brilliant observations and what we call in corporate terms use cases came from 3 campus hires. I think one of them was from Christ. So it was a very simple analysis that threw up a light bulb in our heads. So all I'm trying to share with you is make the most, communicate as much as you can, engage as much as you can. The other aspects, in any interaction that you have, listen and learn. Listen and learn. Sometimes we just hear, but we really are not listening. Listen to every conversation that occurs, in your individual conversations as well. I'm sure as you work as buddies and meet as colleagues, you have tremendous respect, tremendous conversations. But when you're in a corporate environment, any simple conversation that's occurring, listen to it, learn through it. Let me give you an example. Through this pandemic, most of our employees are now gone to what they call native, right? They've gone to their hometowns. So I have employees who are from Chhattisgarh, who are in Dharamshala, in Shillong, in Chintamani, in Tirunelveli, plenty of places, different places, Palghat, etc. I do 15-minute video calls. Every conversation of mine is a video call. And I have my personal computer on the side, and I have my video here on the laptop. And every time I ask them the question, where are you physically located? And they will share that information. And I will immediately Google, because I will want to learn where they are and what makes them tick in the hometown that they are at. So I am learning from the interaction that I am having with my employee, who's a youngster. And they are asking me questions about where are we going, what are we doing, what's the future, etc. But I am also, from my perspective, learning from them. So my only point in this talking about this is to ensure that you all learn from every interaction that you have with anyone, anywhere, anytime. Nothing to do with corporate life. It is to do with just plain simple life. The next one. These are the 3 things that have stood me well. And it's something that is either ingrained in your DNA or you learn to make it part of your DNA. Have empathy for others. Have a compassionate heart. Always. There is nothing to... Being ruthless is a no-no. Have empathy, have compassion. And most importantly, it don't matter how senior you are. Just have some basic humility. Be humble. You didn't get there just because you didn't get there at any level just because you had somebody who, you inherited it or anything else. You got there because of your own drive and engagement. But as you step up the corporate ladder, at some point, just make sure you have these 3 principles in mind. Values, I would say. Humility, empathy, compassion. Last of all, something that I always hold dear, and I hope all of you all will hold, is health and wellness. I run 10 kilometers every morning. I just do that. I used to play squash in Catholic club. I stopped squash. I used to play tennis in Bangalore club every weekend. I've stopped that. I just run because of the pandemic. So I had an opportunity to discover nature. But the point is this: do something to keep your health and wellness. It's very important. Just having that 1 hour to yourself is meditation by itself. You can do meditation, you can do yoga, you can do anything else, but keep your personal time. The next one is social media. I know all of you all probably have your Insta, Snapchat, Facebook, all of those accounts. But as a professional, I keep 2 accounts which I use. One is LinkedIn, and one is Insta. Those are the 2 things I use. Insta, because I want my people that I'm engaged with, either professional or personal, to know what I'm doing from a personal perspective. It's not that I'm going to share my life stories, it's just that I'm going to share my journeys in my life. So keep those 2 things in mind, use them responsibly. LinkedIn, by the way, is extremely critical for all of you all, so just make sure you do that. Yes, last piece. Core values that you should have, and which I would recommend: honesty and integrity. This is not rocket science. But integrity is extremely critical. If you believe in something, stick with it. Stick with it. It may be, let me put it this way. My first boss in Boston, second boss in Boston, told me this: Ashok, you make a mistake once, learn from it. You repeat the same mistake, shame on you. Got that? So keep that in mind, honesty and integrity. Have respect for the individual. Ensure that whatever decision you take, you are accountable for it. Any decision you take, you're accountable for it for the end of the day. And last of all, and I think I alluded to this earlier with the Suez Canal ship, innovation. Keep thinking, use your imagination in any which way you have. Your mind and the millennials have I would say, intellect which is far beyond the old gray cells that we have. Finally, before I take on questions, the last piece of advice which my mother has given to me, and it's stuck with me forever. Ashok, it does not hurt to be nice. It does not hurt to be nice. Keep that in mind, okay? All right, I'm done with my, any questions, please? There's a person there. There's a person there. Is there mics?
The mics are on the audience, sir. Mic is already on the audience.
But the gentleman there is asking me a question and he doesn't have a mic. You want to come and
Sir, there's a mic here. You can use the mic. Mic is here.
First things first, this session was very insightful, and my question to you is, for somebody who's been in the consulting sphere, how is the Chinese market different from India or other places? That was my question.
From a consulting perspective?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So China, so did everybody hear his question? I'm sorry. Did everybody hear his question? What? Yeah, okay. All right, so why is the Chinese consulting market a little, is there any difference, I'm sorry, is there any difference between the Chinese? Consulting is a business that is the same worldwide. It may be in different languages. Mandarin, for example, is the only language that happens in China. And all my employees there are all Mandarin speaking. Some are English dual speaking, but most of it is Mandarin. The business of consulting remains the same. The difference is that Chinese customers, unlike how we are doing work offshore, Chinese customers expect their consultants to go on-site, right? So if you have, for example, Maruti operating out of Noida, Maruti would expect a consultant to go and work in Noida. That doesn't happen here. It happens only in China. So that is one difference. The second difference is, and I'm not sure if I'm being politically correct here, very hierarchical. Very hierarchical. So in the sense that a consultant at a staff level has to go, if he or she had a brilliant idea, which he or she considers a brilliant idea, or a change or a tweak to something that has already been established, a solution, etc., he or she has to go through multiple levels of hierarchy to make sure it gets to the customer. Which, by the way, by the time, you've heard of Chinese whispers, right? So by the time it gets there, the whole solution is lost. Does that answer your question? Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Sorry, there's a question here. Miss, there's a question here. Are there any more mics, please? It's going to be difficult otherwise.
So how has studying in a metropolitan city like Bangalore helped you reach heights?
Good question. Reached heights, I'm still not tall enough. Did everybody understand? Here, I want to make sure. Did you hear the question in the back there? Yes? Okay, good. The good news about Bangalore is it is a cosmopolitan city. This is the only city, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but Bangalore is a city where is a melting pot of people from all over India, number one. When they test market products, they come to Bangalore first, because this is the city where you get a multitude of different personalities from all across India. More importantly, Bangalore provides a platform in terms of agility, situational awareness. Okay, I'm going to use these terms. Agility, situational awareness, the aptitude to understand different cultures, and the understanding of how to manipulate and manage, basically do what I would call jugaad, okay? Situational awareness. I'll give you an anecdotal story. Right opposite, I think right opposite Christ College, on the other side, is a office complex called Prestige Blue Chip Park. I don't know if you've seen that, Prestige Blue Chip Park. So when I moved back from the US in 2005, from Boston, that's where I was housed, in Prestige Blue Chip Park. I was the head of consulting for all of Oracle India. I was also on the executive committee for all of Oracle in India. We had a delegation of officers who came in from the US. They came in from, these are folks who are being positioned to step up into the next level of brigadiers, generals, etc. So they are basically being positioned. So they came from Annapolis, which is Navy. They came from Colorado Springs, which was Air Force, and they came from, I can't remember, the Army place, West Point. They came from West Point. So these are the people who came in, and it was a diverse set of folks who came in. They were coming into India for the first time. I hosted them. And one of the questions they asked me was, and this was in 2000 and maybe 2009 or 10. They asked me this question. I'm in your office. This looks like I'm in America. This looks like I'm in America. You are speaking to me just, I can understand you. You're speaking to me just the way we would talk anywhere in the world. But as I step outside Prestige Blue Chip Park, I see humanity that is challenged. I see waste. I see traffic, which is ripping through all the time. They, as major officers in the US Defense Forces, were scared to even cross the road. So I explained to them, living in a metropolis like Bangalore gives you what is called situational awareness. You are not just looking straight forward, you're observing on your left, you're observing in your right, and you have some idea of what's happening behind. And that what helps us also get through a career, life in general. So living in a metropolis or studying in a metropolis gives you plenty of advantages. Having said that, wherever you come from, your humble beginnings are the most important values that you will learn. I come from Bangalore. What I learned studying and growing up in Bangalore with my grandparents is something that I will never forget for the rest of my life because it has helped me good. I talked about those three things, empathy, empathy, compassion, and humility. I didn't learn that in Bangalore. That came to me from my hometown. Answers your question?
Good afternoon, sir. So I actually have...
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you. So one thing in corporate life, nobody calls sir. There's no sir. I'm known as Ashok, okay? So please.
Yes, so I have two questions. So, yes, okay. So the first question is, since you are in the consulting business, I wanted to ask you, what investment would you recommend for a young adult like me, for us, who are like in their 20s and they're just going to start working? Because I get a lot of things from different areas. Online investors, they would say, invest into real estate. Then there'll be another investor saying, get into life insurance because the premiums are lower. And the second question is, let's say you make a very big mistake in investing. Let's say you lose a lot of money. How do you actually overcome that?
I am not a financier, so I don't know how to answer that question. I can only answer the first question. I can't answer the second question because, thank God, I've not lost money yet. So, although my kids have taken one kid has taken one kidney, the second one has taken the second kidney and half a liver. So it's for college, by the way. On the first question. I'm not sure if I understood it properly, but I'll rephrase the question, all right? So the question I understood was, are there things that I could do while in college to prepare myself for a career outside of college? Is that, no? Sorry, I didn't understand it then.
So the question was, what investment would you recommend to a young adult in the 20s?
You have what is called stumped me with your question. Let me put it that way. I will give you the advice that I gave my daughter, who is just about to graduate. The good thing about studying in the US is everybody works. Through college, they work. So my daughter is a barista, and she works at the university gym. So she helps with equipment and everything else. My son is a resident assistant, so when you stay in the dorms, you have to have a supervisor on every floor. So you have what is called a resident assistant. So my advice to my daughter was, and she's going to, by the way, she's going to start, she's already done 2 internships. She already has a job. She had a job offer in her 3rd year, I think, of college. The advice I gave to my daughter was this: don't go nuts about putting it into what do you call, real estate or jewelry or bonds or Bitcoin or whatever else. Just put it into what we call mutual funds, very simple mutual funds. Let it build itself over the period of years. Most importantly, put that money aside. Don't spend your money. Because she has earned that money, don't spend it off on your own. Now, she does use that. She just went to Miami, flew all the way from Los Angeles to Miami to spend spring break, but she's earned that money. We didn't have to pay for it. The point is, however, she's earning it and putting it aside so that she can continue to build upon it. Starting at this age is important because you will learn through that process for the rest of your life. Now, having said that, do we continue to save, save, save and not spend the money? Please do spend it. At some point, you need to enjoy life as well. Don't constrain yourself. Does that answer your question? I can't answer the second question, I'm sorry.
Very good morning, Mr. Ashok. And so I have a question. Now, most of us, like, what advice would you give for the students who are really not sure of what to do next after the completion of UG course?
Of the undergraduate course,
Yes, because most of them are facing that problem now. Like, they're really not sure about what to do next.
Okay. So I'm assuming, let's take a practical example. It's better to take an example. So let's assume that you're studying finance, finance, yeah. So let's assume that you're studying finance, which is giving you a great background or a great platform or a great foundation into understanding the mechanics, the business of finance within an organization. Financial planning and analysis, workforce planning, operational planning and analysis, etc. So you got that foundation. My recommendation to you is, to all of you, think about it from different perspectives, is to use the foundation to potentially look at, and I'm using this as a personal example, as a consulting company. Because you've got the financial background. You'll have systems that you'll potentially use, but most customers want to know, how do we take a particular business problem, a use case, and transform it for my organization in this cataclysmical world that we are living in. Everything is disrupted right now with the pandemic, with supply chain systems, etc. Let me again use a personal example. My daughter studied economics and political science, liberal arts. My son is studying business and political science. Sorry, my daughter studies a double major in economics and literature. Economics and literature. She's joining Ernst & Young, EY, in the enterprise risk side of things. What is risk? Looking at the entire processes of something like Christ and seeing where is the risk from a regulatory perspective where you have to interact with the government. Now, what did she study and what is she doing? I'll give you my example. I studied industrial engineering. I did my master's in industrial engineering. I have no clue what I studied. I seriously have no clue what I studied. But does that mean, and now I'm a consultant in the technology space and other, I told you about various jobs that I do. What I studied, does it ever apply to what I have done for the last, 32 years? No. No, this is a bad thing to say in front of faculty, but really, but really what you study and what you learn through your degree is the journey of life, how to live my journey in life. What I have learned from my colleagues, from my fellow students, what I have learned from my faculty, what I have learned through projects that I have done, the collaboration, the innovation, the teaming, the articulation, the communications, the presentations, etc., are what will help you. So please don't take me as a personal example just because what I studied is not where I landed up. Some of you all will continue. I will give you a poll of, we have you have WhatsApp groups, right? So we have a WhatsApp group of all the folks that graduated from BMS College of Engineering, the bachelor's degree, in industrial engineering. Out of all of them, 32 of them, there's only one who's doing work in industrial engineering or mechanical engineering. The rest are all disparate. So again, what I would say is this: what you study, don't look at it as a learning of a journey through life, but aspire. The easiest thing is to become a consultant and figure out where you want to go from there. Some of you all will go into different areas which you have never ever studied, but you have an aptitude for it. Does that answer your question? Oh, sorry, there's one there. There's one there.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is, how is leadership and management possible when a workplace goes fully remote?
Good question. Everybody heard that, right? So, and I would add one more piece to that. How do you instill the culture of your organization with people who are all remote, right? So leadership and management, I would just say leadership. Management is okay, you got metrics and you got systems and operational stuff, etc. How is leadership important? The last 2 years have been very interesting from many different ways. For the way you have to, what you do as a leader is you invest time with your employees. And when I say that, I don't mean in terms of large groups like this. One-on-one, so that they understand your passion, your energy, your vision for where we are going for a particular area, whatever the area or technology is, and what their role in that particular vision is. And all of that I do constantly on video, constantly. I never have a conversation with anyone on a phone. It always has to be on video, because I want them to see how I operate and what my body language is. Extremely important. So in a remote working environment, communication is extremely key, and that communication can be in two ways. One could be via chat. So we use Teams, so chat. That's an easy way to do it. How are you? What are you doing? Etc. Second one is through those means. The third one, what we do, and many companies operate in very different ways. Anyone's birthday is through an automatic bot, through a bot. I hope you guys know what a bot, right? Oh, sorry. A bot comes to all of us. I take that message and I send an individual message to the employee saying, happy birthday. I've got a long list of things that I tell them. The second one is whenever someone gets married, send them a personal message. Third is when somebody has a child, a baby girl or a boy. Find out the name of the spouse. Send a message to both of them. Personal relationships are the most important thing. It is extremely important now because you don't have office, coffee, cooler conversations. Everything is remote. So how do you bridge that gap? You bridge that gap by a personal relationship. Now, do you have to invest more? That's what I started with. Invest time. Why? Because you now don't have a 1.5-hour commute to where you have to go. You have time on your hands. Use it. Use it to empower your employees. I spend an hour every day. My executive assistant keeps an hour every day for me to have conversations with employees. Nothing related to work, just a personal conversation. Does that help answer your question? It's leadership in the pandemic is very different from how it was before. There is nothing like a command and control. I can't walk into an office and say, do this and do that. No, it's not happening anymore. And shame on you if you allow that to happen. You all are much more intellectual, much more smarter than the old, I won't use the word, the old folks like us. Okay? Sorry, miss? Somebody can give a, here, right here.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
What's something you wish someone told you in your earlier career journey?
I can't understand the question.
What's something you wish someone told you in your earlier career journey?
Ah. The good news is nobody told me anything. Folks, go with your heart. Go with your heart. You will, the lady they talked about, the lady that said, everybody's giving me advice about this and that and what I should invest in and real estate and lots of different things. Everybody has plenty of advice to give. Go with your heart. Go with what you think you want to do. Go with what you think will work for you, not because someone else tells you to do that. Okay, so I know it's a very simple answer, but sometimes those are the best decisions that you would make. Okay?
Good afternoon. My question is pertaining to the current educational scenario in India. So, from the perspective of an industrial professional, what would you like to see, or what is an element that should change or should come in new in the current educational system?
Good question. Good question. And I'm sure there's a lot of debate, and I'm sure you heard too much of different stuff happening. Everyone has, there are a lot of smarter folks than me who have opined on this issue. The only thing I would wish for, so there are a couple of things that if I look from outside looking in, is two different things. One is our responsibility as a corporate looking in to see what we want to bring in. And the second one is your inherent, I wouldn't say responsibility, but things that you should try and get on your own. I mentioned them at the beginning, right? Think about being engaged. Think about being articulate. Think about being, have an opinion that, and an innovative mind that does not shy away from controversy. Think about presentation. Think about attitude. Think about aptitude. Think about confidence. Those are the things that all come from within yourself. Now, from the outside looking in, our responsibilities. What we try and do, and what many companies are trying to do these days, is trying to influence the last 6 months, 3 months, 6 months of your education to try and see how we can fast track your journey into a corporate culture. And companies are doing it in different ways. I know that some folks from my company have come in and spoken at various departments. But that's not the case. The thing should be that you have a program or a process that helps you understand what we are looking for. So that's our responsibility, what we are looking for from an individual to join our organization. So two different things, okay? One is what you have to bring into yourself, and one that we as corporate citizens try to inculcate in you prior to you coming into the workforce. I can see the backbenchers don't have any questions.
Sir?
There's one there, okay. There's one there. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Ashok. I'm Deepak.
Where are you? There. Okay.
Yeah, you were talking about health and wellness. Do you feel that, how do you handle your employees' health, or mental stress if they have? And do you feel that there is more termination of employees due to this mental stress, what they face in the corporate world?
Good question. See, the one thing, so I don't know if this is again politically correct, but the one thing that the pandemic has helped out with is that most folks are working within a family or support structure. It's not a constant coming into the office, sitting behind a desk all day, doing their work, and then heading back home late at night. What has happened is, over the last 2 years, folks have been working within their comfort zone. That's a double-edged sword because they don't understand the company culture, which is where we have to come in and put our, as a leader, the question that the lady asked, the leadership that we have to present to those employees. Mental stress happens, and that's the fault of leaders in general, some leaders in general, is you put too much of pressure or put too much of work on a particular individual, especially when he or she is just starting their career. I can't speak for most companies, but I can speak for my company. And what we do have is a process of slowly bringing on new campus graduates into the workforce over a period of time. So there is the deliverables or the engagements that they are working on would be minimal for a period of time until such time as they understand what their deliverables will be when they work directly with a client. Have we had, one of the things that we have done though, and it's a very pertinent question, one of the things that most companies have done is have opened up a hotline for people to deal with just this point, mental stress. Which is why I spoke about the health and wellness, is because of the blurring of personal time and professional time, there is a full day of work that you see happening in front of you. Which is why I say every day, take 2 hours of your time to focus on yourself. Make sure you have that time set aside for lunch. Make sure that you have set aside your time for that chai break that you always have. Shut down at a particular period of time. If you want as an individual to work past that time, that's your call. But as a principal, my senior most partner doesn't take calls after 7:30, does not. Unless it's a customer deal that we are trying to win, which is when we do everything possible to win. Even on a weekday, on a weekend, we'll work our tails off. But otherwise, make sure you separate your professional and your personal life. Okay? I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, can't see. There's a gentleman there.
Good afternoon, sir.
Where am I looking? Ah, there. Got it.
Good afternoon, sir. You have seen different customs and practices followed in different corporate organizations as you have worked in many countries. Which was the most inspiring and new to you, which you wanted to be introduced or implemented in India? I mean the customs and practices followed in office culture.
Okay, got it. Can I rephrase that question? So, what cultures and practices that I have seen in other countries could be applicable here in India?
Yeah, which was the most inspiring one to you?
Okay. And I think I mentioned this before, that there is no hierarchy in other countries. I think China, I talked about China, right? That is prevalent. I don't want that hierarchy here, is all I'm saying. The lack of hierarchy, the communication that is so transparent, the fact that you can be focused on work, but you also have a personal connection with an individual is extremely important. That's why I kept harping on relationships. All that I have learned from my work in the US, I have applied here as much as possible. Now, does it mean that the same culture exists in other sections or functions within my organization? I can't speak for that. I can just speak for the fact that I value as a leader to be honest and have integrity and have an open communication at all times. Make sure that there is no hierarchy at all. Beyond that, this is all from a work culture perspective. Personally, from a personal perspective, the one good thing about working abroad is that you have some privacy. In India, everybody knows what everybody else does. So that is one thing I would try to avoid as much as possible.
Thank you for the interaction, guys. That's it for questions now.
Right? So, I'll just, last word. Can I just give a last word?
Yeah. Sure, sir, sure.
All right. So I've been, there's somebody who wants a question. I know she's putting her hand down. I'm so sorry. You can come and talk to me afterwards, okay? A last sentence. I've been very impressed with the questions that have been asked. I've been very impressed. It shows that it shows that you all have acumen, thinking, a questioning behavior, very interested in understanding what an old man like me can give back to you. But keep that, keep those questions, keep that intellect going for the rest of your life. Don't ever, ever stop. Just because you are a campus graduate or you're moving off from here to a corporate life, don't let anyone ever tell you that you do not know nothing. Of course you know everything. Of course you know much more than we do. Of course you're smarter than us. We know, as I said earlier, we know all we know within that small box. We want the other envelope coming in. And that's where you'll come in. God bless.
You know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And a huge list of learnings from this interaction. It indeed was an insightful session. I'm sure we'll all take in your thoughts, reflect on them, and ensure that people know who we are, not just in relation to our names, but through the stories that make up our lives, our legends. Thank you, sir. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Ashok Mario Pereira? Now I request our volunteer to hand over a memento to sir as a token of gratitude. With that, we have come to the end of today's event. We are immensely grateful to our speaker. Thank you, sir. Again, no amount of thank you is enough at this point because you have given us a lot of points today. We thank all the faculty members, members of the management, and the volunteers for being the backbone behind the smooth run of this event. Thank you all for being a wonderful audience, sending you lots of hope for all the new beginnings and ventures. Let the leaders in you go conquer the world. This is AK Darshni on behalf of the entire team of DAKSH 2022 signing off. Have a lovely day.